That's a big what if, one of the most consequential counterfactuals in modern history. If the September 11, 2001 attacks had been prevented, the ripple effects across US policy, global geopolitics, culture, and even daily life would have been enormous. Here are some major areas where history likely would have unfolded differently. No war in Afghanistan, or very different. Without 9/11s, the US likely wouldn't have invaded Afghanistan to remove the Taliban and pursue al-Qaeda. The Taliban might have remained in power continuously, changing the trajectory of South Asia. Iraq War. Less likely. The Bush administration already had Iraq in its sights, but 9/11s created the political justification for the 2003 invasion. Without the war on terror, it would have been much harder to gain public or international support. Middle East power balance. With no US invasions, the destabilization that followed, rise of ISIS, regional wars, refugee crises, might not have occurred, or at least, not in the same way. No Patriot Act or weaker version post-9/11 laws that expanded surveillance powers, NSA, FBI, etc., probably wouldn't have been enacted or not with such speed and breadth. Airport security, TSA as we know it might not exist. Flying could still resemble pre-2001 norms, less invasive checks, fewer restrictions. Surveillance state, mass data collection and the normalization of being monitored might have developed slower. US image abroad. Instead of the Iraq War and accusations of unilateralism, America might have retained more goodwill, especially in Europe and the Middle East. No war on terror as defining theme. International relations in the 2000s might have focused more on globalization, China's rise, climate change, or technological competition. Military spending. The US spent trillions on Afghanistan and Iraq. Without those wars, funds might have gone into domestic infrastructure, healthcare, or tax relief. Oil prices and energy policy. Wars and instability in the Middle East shaped global oil markets. The US might have accelerated renewable energy or kept dependence on foreign oil longer. Markets and recession. While the 2008 financial crisis would likely still happen, the post-9/11 economic shock and airline bailouts wouldn't have. Less Islamophobia. Anti-Muslim hate crimes and suspicions surged after 9/11s. Preventing the attacks may have avoided that stigma for Muslim communities in the West. Pop culture, entire genres, patriotic war films, 24, homeland security thrillers, might not exist. The cultural focus might have been more on globalization and tech than terrorism. Generational identity. For many, 9/11s defined the early 2000s, shaping young people's worldview. Without it, the defining before-after moment of the century might have shifted to the 2008 crash, social media, or COVID-19. Surveillance tech, facial recognition, mass metadata collection, drones for counterterrorism, all were accelerated by 9/11s. Without it, those technologies might still exist, but on a slower timeline. Social media politics, the war on terror shaped online discourse, from conspiracy theories to geopolitics. Platforms might have evolved differently without it dominating early 2000s news. In short, if 9/11s had been prevented, the US and world might have entered the 21st century with more optimism, fewer wars, less surveillance, and a different set of global priorities. But other challenges, financial crisis, China's rise, climate change, pandemics, would still have loomed, just with a very different backdrop. George W. Bush's presidency. Without 9/11s, Bush might have been a domestic policy president, remembered mostly for tax cuts, education, No Child Left Behind, and Medicare drug benefits. Re-election in 2004. Without 9/11s boosting his approval, Bush may have lost to John Kerry, changing US policy on climate, healthcare, and international diplomacy. Obama's rise. If Bush wasn't as polarizing, the Democratic wave in 2006-2008 might have been weaker. Obama could still have risen, but maybe later, or Hillary Clinton might have been the Democratic nominee in 2008. Taliban's longevity. Without US intervention, the Taliban could have remained in power in Afghanistan for decades, likely more isolated, but not toppled. Al-Qaeda. If the group didn't pull off 9/11s, it might have carried out smaller attacks, but without triggering wars. Its growth might have been slower, and ISIS might never have emerged. Iran. Without US troops in neighboring Iraq and Afghanistan, Iran's regional influence might have grown more slowly. Air travel today, still like the 1990s. Family could walk to the gate, less invasive checks, no liquid bans, no TSA theater, movies and TV, no war on terror thrillers like 24, Homeland, or countless war movies. Instead, early 2000s pop culture might have leaned harder into globalization and sci-fi. Video games, shooters like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare and Medal of Honor might not have focused on Middle Eastern battlefields. China's rise more noticeable. Without being distracted by the Middle East, the US might have paid closer attention to China's economic and military growth earlier. Russia. Without the distraction of 9/11s and wars, US policy toward Russia might have been tougher in the 2000s. Putin's expansionism, Georgia 2008, Crimea 2014, might have been harder to pull off. Europe. NATO might not have been drawn into Afghanistan, keeping its focus on European security. 2001. Al-Qaeda plot foiled by US intelligence or airport security. Bush presidency continues without major crisis. 2002-2003. No war on terror. Bush struggles to justify invading Iraq. US doesn't go in, Saddam remains in power. Europe and the US stay more unified, no split over Iraq war. 2004. Bush approval much lower. John Kerry defeats him narrowly, campaigning on healthcare and international cooperation. 2005. 2008. Kerry presidency. Pushes for climate action earlier, joining Kyoto. Works on diplomacy in the Middle East. Financial crisis of 2008 still happens, but with less strain from war spending. Recession recovery might be faster. 2008-2012, without Iraq-Afghanistan draining resources, the US invests more in Asia and technology. Al-Qaeda still active, but never reaches 9/11 scale attack, remains more regional threat. Obama may run in 2012 but enters with a different platform, economic reform, climate. 2010, no ISIS, no Syrian refugee crisis as we know it. Middle East remains authoritarian but more stable. Russia still tests NATO but US and Europe more united without Iraq-Afghanistan baggage. China rises even faster as the main US rival. 2020's COVID-19 pandemic still happens, but response may differ. No homeland security style infrastructure, more global cooperation since no war on terror divisions. By 2025, the US faces a world where the main challenges are China's dominance in technology and the global economy. Climate change remains a pressing issue. Cybersecurity, not terrorism, has become the top security concern. In this alternate world, preventing 9/11s means no wars on terror, a slower rise of surveillance, less Middle East chaos, earlier focus on climate and China, and a US less scarred by polarization. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Tommy James Most Random for more content. Thank you for watching.